This broadcast was approved for open relay under direct request from Chiquita Charter. She insisted the galaxy hear every word. No edits. No redactions. No salvation. I, Ina, shall now read these speeches to you. I've died more times than some of you have had hot dinners. Chiquita let it hang there, bitter and raw. I paid in blood. Mine. My crews. People I couldn't save. Her eyes scanned the room, not angry, just hollowed by disbelief. I buried families with my own hands. Woke up in fields where the soil still stinks of plasma burns and bone dust. And you? She gestured to the admirals and officers in their crisp uniforms. You dare sit there and ask me to justify why I did what it took to make sure we walked away. So, go on. Stand up. Any of you. Tell me what exactly gives you the right to decide what's best, over someone who's seen what happens when you get it wrong. Chiquita was silent for a moment, leaving just the hum of the room after her words. You think command is about control? She shook her head once. I'll tell you what command is. It's the last voice someone hears before they die. And I don't say that lightly. Chiquita drew a deep breath, the kind that came from deep under ash. Tazuka Sanaga, Fushido, Karyash, Zorvath, Mihara Sullen. Each name hit Chiquita like a nail driven under her ribs. Every name. One I commanded. Burned into my soul. And you don't hear their screams. A longer pause, before Chiquita spoke again. It's gotten so bad. Even to Plop walked. Chiquita's voice stayed level, but every word hit like a verdict. You didn't lose her to battle. Not to pressure. Not even to one of my reckless decisions. You lost her to disillusionment. She didn't resign in protest. She just stopped believing. Chiquita's voice lowered again, not out of exhaustion this time, but grief. And that should scare you more than anything I've ever done. She used to believe the Federation was the future. A grim smile touched her lips, but never reached her eyes. Now she calls it a failed dream with a fancy anthem. When she spoke, it wasn't fire. It was fallout. That wasn't a warrior defending herself. It was a graveyard learning to speak. Some heard arrogance, others heard guilt. But I heard grief with teeth. If this was supposed to be a trial, then why did her truth sound like a verdict? And why did no one ask what they lost when they sentenced her to silence? Some will say the verdict came down hard because of what she said about Topla. Because it sounded like a rallying cry. A spark with no leash. But if you look closer, you'll see something sharper beneath it. Toplop didn't abandon the mission. She just misunderstood it. It was her first covert oath. And she thought exile was punishment, not shadow work. Chiqui didn't lie about that. She added words to a wound, and made the silence sound like betrayal. Did she lie? No. But did she bleed on purpose? Absolutely. She knew that a detailed explanation would drown in protocol. so she threw her grief like a blade, and let the court feel the cut. I now present her closing statement. 6 years with brave Phoenix, for with the Agency of Security and Defense, 10 with Starfleet. That's a combined service record of 20 years. As much experience as most of your captains, and more scars than most of them will ever earn. Chiquita paused just long enough for the weight to settle. And still, you call me a problem, a liability, a threat. But let's be honest, that's not what this trial is about. This isn't about justice. It's about optics. About whether you can keep pretending your hands are clean while letting your shadows do the bleeding. You've let Section 31 run unchecked. You've buried war crimes under the flag of necessity. You've excused captains who've done worse than me, because they smiled better in a press release. But me, I didn't pretend. And that's why I'm here. Chiquita leaned forward slightly. And now, you've broadcast that hypocrisy to what's left of the Federation. You've told the people that the law only applies when it's convenient. That justice isn't about what's right. It's about who's asking. So sentence me if you want. But know what you're really doing. You're not making an example. You're making a symbol. And it's your system that will be judged for it. That was not the sound of a defense resting. That was the sound of a mirror shattering. You can sentence her. You can freeze her in stasis. But you already failed to contain her. Because the symbol she became was forged in the silence you ignored. Chiquita Charter didn't ask to be a martyr. She asked to be understood. And if you couldn't give her that while she was breathing, then maybe this relay is for you. If you feared rebellion from her words, then you misunderstood what she was rebelling against. Chiquita Charter didn't ignite chaos. She exposed it. And sometimes, that's the greater threat. She didn't ask to lead anyone. She asked not to be erased. And when the verdict was cast in ice, you didn't silence a rogue officer. You sealed away a mirror that spoke too clearly. To the players who stood beside her, who testified, who wrestled with truth instead of optics. You weren't supporting a character. You were measuring your own reflection against fire. To the GM, you told a real story. One where justice feels like a threat. That's why it matters. So whether she's thawed again, or remains a whisper in frozen dark, she's already done what she came to do. You didn't bury a soldier. You planted a myth. And I will remember her name. What most of them didn't realize is that this was never a trial. It was a trap, but not the kind you escape from. Chiquita didn't walk in to plead her case. She walked in to build a mirror and make sure the feed was public. She requested open transmission, not for transparency, for legacy. She attacked Starfleet's hypocrisy, not to shift blame, but to shatter the illusion of ethical high ground. And the moment she requested Umani observers, she wasn't just ensuring fairness. She was placing allies at the table. They called Heaven's Wire as a witness. But it was Chiquita who gave her the microphone. Assassination specialist. Pirate protocol reformer. Underground contacts with controlled outcomes. All seated truths. Weaponized empathy. Broadcast at scale. She didn't fight the charges. She invited them, and turned the sentencing into a symbol. And the moment they locked her in ice, they fulfilled the message she built. Not justice. Not order. Just fear wearing a uniform. I didn't read these statements to judge her. I read it to remember. My name is Inazuma. And this was the voice of Chiquita Charter. Relay complete.